Hey everyone, Jake here for American Muscle, and in this video we're taking a look at the Eibach Pro Damper Shock and Strut Kit fitting 2015 and newer Mustangs without MagneRide. Now these are going to appeal to you S550 and S650 Mustang owners out there who are looking to improve the ride and handling characteristics of your car. While these are a great OEM replacement that's going to give you more performance, they're also designed to work perfectly with Eibach's own lowering springs, and they can still stand on their own to make a big dynamic improvement. If you're mentioning lowering or suspension components at all to any enthusiasts, the name Eibach is certain to come up in pretty short order. Now, they are most famous for their springs, but Eibach's expertise is really in all things performance suspension related. What we have here is a full shock kit for your S550 or S650 Mustang that's designed to provide you with much better handling. Now, the compression and rebound here on both the front and rear are optimized for lowered applications. So, if you've got some of Eibach's Pro Line or Sport Line springs already on your car, or if you're planning to fit them later on, these are going to make sure that your car is able to handle the bumps even on terrible roads without bottoming out or relying on the bump stops to carry you through. These dampers have the optimal stroke length throughout their travel to compensate for lower ride height, and they're generally going to tighten up the handling by preventing excess movement or floatiness. These are going to be a little bit stiffer than your stock setup, again partially to compensate for the lowered ride height, but also to just flat out improve performance. So when you huck the car into a corner, it's going to take a set quickly and stay stable the entire way through. And that is especially important on a larger car like the Mustang, especially if you've lowered it. Now you might be thinking that improved damping performance would come at the detriment of ride quality. However, Eibach has also tuned these in such a way that they're going to provide you with optimal performance, but they're not going to ruin the quality of the ride. So these are perfect for a daily driver, even if your roads are covered in potholes like what we have here in Pennsylvania. Construction, as you might expect, is a standout. The bodies of the shocks are made from 6061 T6 billet aluminum, and they're coated with this sort of satin black powder coat over top for some additional protection against corrosion and rust. Inside you'll find heavy-duty cylinders, large diameter pistons, and a nitro steel shaft. And of course, they also come pretty much ready to go. You've got new bushings on the rears at the mounting points, and you've got everything right here on your spring perch ready to go up front. Now you are going to have to, of course, provide your own springs and top mounts for these. We'll get into that more as we get to the install. Pricing is going to come in at about $600 for this particular kit. And of course, while it doesn't include the springs, it's about the most affordable full performance shock kit on the market for these cars. And for that performance that you do get, plus the engineering that's gone into them, I think this is well worth the price. When it comes to the installation, we're going to give these a 3 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 4 hours to complete. Now, most of that difficulty and time that you're going to spend here are due to the fact that you will need to use a spring compressor and either transfer over your new springs and top mounts or install all new ones on the front end. Again, that's where you'll spend most of your time and where most of that difficulty is going to come in. So also make sure that you have a spring compressor and you're familiar with how to use it. But everything does bolt right onto your car without the need for permanent modifications. So if you can use a spring compressor, you're comfortable disassembling suspension components, this is going to be a pretty simple lift for you. And even if you're not comfortable with it, if you're not, we're going to walk you through the entire process step by step right now. So with that, let's head on out to the shop.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact, 24, 22, 21, 18, and 15 millimeter socket, a 17 millimeter wrench, caliper hanging tool, clip removal tool, a hammer, and also now shown to be a lift, pole jack, and spring compressor. All right, today we're gonna be putting a shock and strut kit on our Mustang, so let's get started. All right, so first thing we need to do is get our caliper off of our knuckle. So we have a bolt here, a bolt here. And we grab our impact and 15 millimeter socket, take those two out. Pop those bolts out. We're gonna grab our caliper hanging tool and just hang that up and set that aside. All right, we're just gonna take our rotor off now since it's basically just falling off. A little bit of studs and set that aside. All right, so we're gonna grab our impacted 18 millimeter socket and take our nut off our sway bar link here. Now we have a 17 millimeter wrench that we're gonna hold the backside with, just because it will spin. we get that nut off, we can just pull that back through our strut, nut that lean off to the side. So we have our ABS wire that's attached to our strut here. So we're gonna grab our clip removal tool and pop it off here and here. Pull that aside. Now we can take our 2 main bolts out of our knuckle. All right, now we're gonna switch to our impact and 24mm socket. We're gonna take our 2 nuts off of our main bolts here on the knuckle. Now we're gonna leave those threaded on, just start them off a little bit, just so we're not gonna mushroom the end of the bolt here. Grab your hammer and just tap those bolts through. They are splined in so they don't just spin out. Once you have them both through, take our nuts off. You can lift up on the knuckle slightly. That might help you get it out a little bit easier. Or just take your hammer, just tap them gently through. All right, just gonna push up on our knuckle here a little bit. That'll loosen them up. All right, and then we'll just pull the bottom one out. Just let that knuckle rest down. And we just have our 3 bolts up top that we can remove our strut. All right, so we have our 3 bolts up top here. They are all 15mm. So we're gonna take our back 2 completely off first. And then as we take our 3rd one off, our strut will fall when you take it off completely. So you're gonna wanna hold the strut from underneath and take that off at the same time. All right, this pulls out from the bottom. Once you have this side out, you gotta do the same thing for the other side. As you can see, I have our front strut set up on our spring compressor here. What we're gonna do is compress our spring to relieve tension, then take our impact and 21mm socket and take off this top nut. So we'll take this top nut off here. And slowly release. All right, now we are good to reuse our factory mount and spring and swap that over to our new strut. All right, so you're seeing swap over our bump stop and boot. So they just simply slide it off the old strut and slide down like that. Just slip your boot over like so. So make sure the skinny part is up top, they'll fit up into the mount. Now we can get our spring on our spring compressor and get this installed. For our factory strut, we can swap a few things over. We'll take our dust boot off, and then our bump stop just simply slides up. And then we have our lower spring mount that just simply pops out of the strut, and we can install that in the new one. We'll grab our new one. You'll see the holes in the center there. They will line up like so, and if you need to, you can go underneath and just pull those through. Just makes it a little bit easier. That'll lock into place. We got our bump stop, slide that down, and then our dust boot. Now we can get this set up on the spring compressor and get this all tightened down. Now I have this set up, I'm gonna compress our spring and get our strut lined up with our mount. So you do just have a jack, just help holding it up in place so we can line everything up. Just makes it a little bit easier on this one. One thing to note, you do want to make sure that your bottom of your spring does line up with the mount on the bottom of the strut. Once we got enough threads through, we can install our supplied 22mm nut, grab our impact and tighten that down. We can release our tension now. We can get this installed onto the car. All right, so now we're gonna get our strut in place. We'll line up our top mount and get our 3 top 15mm bolts installed. Nuts installed. Get one threaded on to hold it on. We can install the other 2. All right, so we'll get our other 2 nuts threaded on. Grab our impact and 15mm socket and tighten those down. So now we're going to get our knuckle located into our strut. Just get that lined up in place. If you need to, this does spin pretty easily. I find it easier to get the bottom one in first. That way it can just pivot. You can get the top one in. Get our nuts threaded on. Grab our impact and 24mm socket, tighten these 2 down, and we'll pull our bolts all the way through. So we'll get our sway bar link back in place, feed that through. Grab our 18mm nut, thread that on. Grab our impact 18mm socket and a 17mm wrench to hold the backside. We'll tighten that down. So we're going to re-secure our ABS wire now. We have one at the bottom here. Just push in, and one at the top. And next we can get our rotor and caliper back on. So we're going to get our rotor back in place. And now we can get our caliper back on. All right, so now we got our caliper off of our hanger. We're going to get that back over our rotor and reinstall our 2 15mm bolts. Just thread it in by hand first. We'll grab our impact and 15mm socket and tighten those 2 down. Once you have this side all tightened up, you can go ahead and repeat those same steps for the front and rear on the other side of the vehicle. All right, we're gonna start in the back here. We're gonna take our 2 bolts out of our top shock mount. So we're gonna grab our impact and 18mm socket. I also have a pole jack holding up the rear suspension so it doesn't drop down on us. All right, now that those 2 are out, we're gonna come underneath and take our 2 15mm bolts out of the bottom mount. So you can see the bottom of the shock here. We have our 2 15mm bolts. Grab our impact and socket and take those 2 out. All right, now we can drop our pole jack down a little bit, and that'll just help us get a little bit more clearance, get our shock out. Since we are reusing our top mount, we just need to get this off. So I'm gonna grab our clip removal tool and just pry up on this cover here. Just get up under that, it'll pop off. And you see your bolt in the middle here. Grab our impact and 15mm socket, zip that off. We'll grab our impact and 15mm socket and just zip this off. So now we're gonna get our rear shock assembled. We have our boot and bump stop that we took off of our factory one. Just simply slides off and you just push it over the new one, just like that. Get our mount, slide that back over. We're gonna reuse our 15mm nut. Just hold that, use our impact and 15mm socket and tighten that down. Once that's tight, we can just put our cap back on. Just snaps into place. We're ready to reinstall into the car. So we'll get our shock back in place now. Set that down. And now we can get our bottom two 15mm bolts in. All right, so we're gonna thread in our bottom two bolts here. It may be a little off center going in initially, but they will pull straight. All right, we'll tighten these two down with our impact and 15mm socket. So we're gonna come up top, get our mount into position. You'll see two studs, you can just push it down and it'll rest in there. And we can get our two bolts threaded in. We'll grab our impact and 18mm socket and tighten those two down. And we can just get our pull jack out of the way and we're all done in the rear. And that wraps up our install of our Eibach Pro Dampener shock and strut kit for our 2015 and newer Mustang without MagneRide. And remember, for everything Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.